Hello and welcome to the webinar, Optimizing IT Processes for Great Employee Experience. Thanks for joining us. My name is Bruce Popke, Director of Marketing for EasyWeb Enterprises. I'll be your presenter today, along with Paul Smith, Director of Enterprise Sales, and we'll be joined by Hasib Saad, Product Manager. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. Please feel free to use the Q&A button in Zoom to ask any questions, and we will answer them at the end during the Q&A section. And a link to the recording of this webinar will be sent to your email address after the presentation. Here's the agenda for today. We'll start with an overview discussion of the current thinking surrounding the business value of employee experience. Next, we'll step through 6 common scenarios and where IT processes can help, followed by a quick word about related tools, and then questions and answers. It's widely accepted that amazing customer experience contributes to business growth and success, and organizations have focused for years on improving customer experience through all means available, whether it's more responsive customer service, great web-based user experience, added product features, and so on. And IT certainly plays a role as a key facilitator for all of the above. However, delivering a great employee experience has not come into the spotlight until fairly recently, and it may not be as obvious the role that tight IT management processes play in helping organizations reap the benefits of high employee satisfaction, including higher retention rates, increased morale and employee engagement, elevated productivity, and overall success for your team. Particularly in today's distributed workforce, providing excellent IT support to your employees impacts productivity, while less well-developed IT processes tend to disturb operations, slowing down work, and by extension, this leads to poor customer experience.
One of the things I'd like to interject is, throughout the conversation, I'll be adding some color of experiences that we've had with clients over time to give you some real world examples. Regarding what Bruce was just saying, COVID-19 opened a lot of eyes regarding the fact that virtual is cost and time efficient. And we can only expect that the distribution of the workforce is truly just in generation 1 of development. I think we'll see a lot more hybrid and work from home circumstances, and making sure that those employee experiences are as positive as possible as they're sitting in their office alone is key to having a good onboarding experience. So technology will change the game even further. So I think it's something that we need to really be looking at. Back to you, Bruce.
Great, thanks, Paul. Let's start with a few simple examples of how insufficient IT support negatively impacts the employee experience, with a potentially negative impact on your overall business goals. Oops. For example, lacking regular PC updates, an employee's system can reboot and restart at the wrong times. Whether working on an extended market analysis or during a prospect demo near the end of the quarter, the interruption's impact can range from frustrating to destructive. Employees' productivity, trust, and engagement are all at risk. I'm going to skip to the next slide. All right. Apologies for the interruption. Secondly, procuring hardware and software on time. You welcome a new team member on board, but your IT department hasn't yet procured the correct hardware and software resources. So now your team member has to wait days to get started, impacting ramp-up time. Not a great first impression. Not a great first impression. Apologies, everybody, for the interruption. Thirdly, an employee requests a new headset for general use or for a webinar like this one, but the request hasn't been escalated in time, resulting in suboptimal results until it's resolved, plus the extra time spent repeating the request. And the last example, offboarding. One of your team members exits, but is still able to log into the organization's network after the exit date, causing a sizable potential security threat. Okay, with these examples in mind, let's discuss the business value of employee experience and how streamlined IT contributes to it. First, let's take a look at a few statistics that emphasize the key role of employee experience.
Bruce, let's remind the audience that all the information we present um, will show that supporting the members in the internal chain that create your product and the relationships that you develop as a company are dependent on having a competent and well-equipped employee group. So the information that we're presenting to you today is going to help you understand how you make that experience as possible as positive as possible for those people.
Great, Paul. Thanks very much. On to the stats. So according to Gallup research, businesses with highly engaged employees result in 21% greater profitability. IDC conducted a survey where 85% of respondents agreed that an improved employee experience means a better customer experience and higher customer satisfaction. Another Gallup research poll concluded that engaged employees are 23 times more likely to recommend their organization as a great place to work. And according to a think tank study, poor employee engagement among companies in the US accounts for losses of around 400 to $550 billion annually. As we can see from these statistics, there are many important business outcomes from employee satisfaction and engagement. Since your employees are the ones delivering your company's product, services, and support, optimizing your internal IT processes to improve their experience is an important factor contributing to their overall productivity, which translates to business value. Many employee impacting IT related issues can easily be resolved if there are defined processes in place. These days, as smaller organizations start to grow, they may begin with Google spreadsheets or similar homegrown systems for tracking and managing IT processes and assets. While having a basic system is better than no system at all, this approach can be time intensive to sustain and difficult to scale, which can inhibit employee productivity and ultimately compromise the customer experience. So an employee-centric approach to both IT service management and IT asset management improves your ability to execute in all areas of business operations. A useful set of objectives for these processes include reducing operational friction, minimizing system complexity, and eliminating fragmentation from your overall business processes. We picked 6 common workflows that benefit the most from streamlining and standardization of IT processes, scenarios that your business likely handles every day.
And as I said before, most of these scenarios are based on conversations we have had with clients and prospects regarding the challenges they're facing and how they see a system helping them address those challenges. So as I said before, as we go through these scenarios, I'll give you examples of implementations and conversations that we've had that apply to that specific scenario.
Great,
Bruce?
thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Moving on to scenario number 1. So the first employee experience scenario we'll discuss today is employee onboarding. Clearly, smooth employee onboarding creates an excellent first impression on new hires. When new employees join an organization, they are motivated and excited, and strong onboarding establishes a positive first impression. Looking at a few recent statistics, we can see that the impact of this first impression is significant. According to research by Brandon Hall Group, organizations with strong onboarding processes improve new hire retention by 82% and productivity by over 70%. A Forbes article indicated that lack of effective onboarding is responsible for companies losing 17% of their new hires within the first 3 months, and is also the reason why 20% of staff turnovers occur within the first 45 days of employment. Another recent study showed that 62% of companies with effective onboarding programs have a higher time to productivity ratio and a 54% increase in employee engagement. And lastly, according to the Harvard Business Review, companies with a standardized onboarding process can improve retention rates by up to 50%. Organizations that struggle with employee onboarding most often lack a well-structured approach, and this is a primary obstacle. Some common IT onboarding issues may face include the timely deployment of IT hardware assets such as computers, mobile devices, and peripherals, access to the organization's network, access to cloud-based software, email accounts, and internal communication platforms. Failure in any of these activities causes delays, reduces the employee's productivity out of the gate, and may serve to demotivate them, starting things in the wrong direction. For your onboarding process to run smoothly, it's helpful to focus your effort on having as much ready to go as possible before the employee comes in. Here are some simple ways your IT team can improve onboarding and deliver an excellent employee experience for new hires by removing a few roadblocks and creating new processes. First, to help streamline IT device deployment, create workflows that allow you to import device and user data to a central repository. This way, your IT teams will not need to manually enter newcomers' data into their system, but instead they can fetch this information directly from the central repository, minimizing the risk of any manual errors and reducing the overall onboarding time per employee. Let's look at a simple example of this. So Sarah, pictured here, joins your organization in the customer support department. In terms of hardware assets, she requires a laptop, an external monitor, noise canceling headphones, mouse, and keyboard. In addition, she also requires access to your service management platform and licensed seats for all relevant software applications. As we see in this example, preparing a standard IT onboarding procedure per department in your central repository can help tremendously. This will help your IT department to ensure that everything is ready every time. If you're hiring more than a couple of people at a time, then maintaining an accurate database can be a challenge. Implementing software that allows you to group items and assign them in bulk will help ensure that the correct devices and software licenses are deployed to your employees the first time. Paul, any thoughts on this? Paul, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we're presently involved in a situation with a well-known organization that's in hypergrowth, in a hypergrowth phase. They have a combination of on-prem software and new mobile systems, and it's taken them 3 weeks to outfit their sales team with the various hardware and software assets they need to begin the sales education and onboarding process. In revenue generation, it's key that new salespeople be productive as quickly. In most cases like this, the sales opportunities are there. They need sales folks to turn them into buying clients. 3 weeks is a lot of lost productivity in a revenue generation engine, an area that I'm very close, near and dear to, since it's part of my responsibility. So the onboarding that Bruce talked about is key in getting your staff productive as quickly as possible so you get the most out of your investment in your employee group.
Great.
Okay, Bruce?
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. So onboarding is not just a critical time for new employees, but for the organization as well. To summarize, here's how seamless onboarding can add value to your business. First, it reduces overall onboarding time per employee. When your IT team knows in advance the onboarding protocols and checklists to follow, onboarding goes faster and with more reliability. A great onboarding process sets the tone of your company culture and helps new employees be more successful in their integration and adoption of your mission and values. Seamless onboarding also communicates that your organization cares about its employees and is invested in their well-being and success. And third, if the new employee settles in quickly, he or she can begin work more quickly as well. And multiplying this by the number of new employees, these productivity gains add up to increased profitability. According to recent Gallup findings, highly engaged business units result in a 23% difference in profitability. All right, so the second employee experience scenario that we're going to discuss today is how we keep work flowing day to day. No matter what industry you're in, every organization has so many priorities every day, from HR to finance to customer support and revenue generation. And while IT obviously can't offer a solution to all of the challenges that come up, it's one of the primary foundations for all operations. So continuously empowering employees with excellent IT support and keeping them equipped with the right tools amounts to a strategic priority. Here are some common IT management pitfalls that cause operational bottlenecks that can seriously impede your operations. One of the most common things that can stop you from keeping work flowing is the unavailability of IT assets at the time they're needed. For example, an employee wants to deliver a lunch and learn session on the upcoming Monday and needs AV equipment. On Monday, the employee learns that another team had also scheduled an activity, so they checked out the equipment for themselves. The last minute scramble may or may not result in success, but it's an operational failure that degrades performance and can also demotivate your team. Without solid procedures and tracking in place, IT teams can lose track of devices and their ownership. Loss of hardware devices can not only impede your business operations, but can also pose a security threat. We all know that IT assets are a huge cost center, and the inability to accurately track these items adds to these costs. For example, let's say that one of your employees requests an external monitor for their laptop to improve their working area for a particular project. But upon delivery, he or she discovers that the new monitor is not working, even though it's relatively new. Without solid procedures for custody management, it's difficult to know if you received a defective piece of equipment from the vendor or if the previous user broke the item and just did not report it before checking it in. In either case, the broken monitor costs time and effort and reduces the quality of work while the problem is being resolved. Again, overall productivity is at stake. Without a solid plan and procedures, these misses add up and reduce employee engagement and the quality of their work. Paul, any examples that you'd like to share?
We're working with some one of the areas that we spend time with is medical organizations, and we're working with some large medical institutions that have multiple locations that are scattered around the US. They use multiple hardware and software systems for different areas, including laptops, iPads, some specialized telephony options, and it's distributed amongst, in the one case I'm thinking, over 20,000 employees. And those employees include doctors, nurses, support staff, clinicians, and financial people. Many of those people do the majority of their work directly with patients using the technology that's been provided. Without a solid and complete system, they lose equipment due to misplacement. Someone had a cell phone or some sort of walkie-talkie kind of deal, and they just misplace it. They put it down and they forget where they put it. Sometimes it's due to turnover, or it can be due to the custody of the equipment changing hands without a way to track when things change hands. So having a system that allows them to track that information allows them to keep close control of a really valuable asset that they have bought for their employees to use in order to do their jobs better. So having a system like this is key for them in maintaining some cost controls. Okay, Bruce?
Awesome. Thank you. Good stuff. Now let's look at how your IT teams can help you solve these issues to reduce operational bottlenecks and keep your work flowing smoothly day to day. So the first issue we talked about was the unavailability of shareable IT assets when they're needed by your employees. If you put a protocol in place that allows your IT teams to reserve the items in advance and check out these assets, you can help eliminate this problem. In the example we discussed in the previous slide, one solution is to mandate advance notice for all AV reservations and keep a reservation repository open for all users to access and view availability. But whether it's a central spreadsheet or a Slack channel, a little process goes a long way, and you will now have a chain of custody to refer to, which is very helpful. It will also help employees better plan their activities based on availability and save substantial time and effort and improve results. Also important is standardizing permission protocols for higher value hardware. It is important to enable employees to put in a formal request to a line manager if they need to take out a high value piece of equipment, and to make this process clear and simple. Email is typical, but a repository of permissions and equipment acceptance and return will keep things better organized. A recorded history of the equipment usage is important to track custody, damage, and loss, and this helps ensure overall availability for everyone. Standardize regular health checks for your software applications. Systemizing and communicating application update schedules goes a long way toward a positive service experience for your employees, and also allows them to prepare for any downtime, which helps productivity. It is also helpful to maintain a repository of your software, meaning how many licensed seats have you acquired, which employees are using the licenses, and which need upgrading. Our next scenario is when IT assets break, one of the most critical issues, because this one has a major impact on employee experience, and it also has the potential to put operations in immediate jeopardy. Here are some general downtime statistics to give us a rough idea of how businesses are impacted when IT things break and cause unplanned downtime. An IBM study indicates that an unplanned downtime drops an employee's productivity by 47%. An often quoted 2014 Gartner study attaches $5,600 per minute as the cost for IT downtime, which includes network and server outages, but this number will vary quite a bit depending on the industry. A 2016 survey by Robert Half determined that employees wasted 22 minutes per day or 91 hours per year dealing with IT-related issues. So simply being reactive about your IT asset maintenance can have a serious impact on your employees. These numbers really point out the value that preventative care offers. So in other words, be proactive. Regular maintenance and timely servicing of IT assets allow you to prevent unplanned downtime instead of a reactive approach that will also likely increase repair costs. Due to regular use, it's inevitable that your IT assets will require repair, upgrades, and replacement eventually. But a set of asset management protocols gives you visibility so you can plan and stay ahead. As you determine trends in your software and software upgrade cycles and hardware issues, you can better manage the life cycle of your IT assets, increase ROI, maintain employee productivity, and minimize downtime. There is one important starting point for both preventative protocols and being ready for unplanned issues, and that is keeping extremely accurate records. These include when each specific piece of hardware was purchased, its vendor details and service agreements, and how regularly it would typically require maintenance based on vendor recommendations and usage. While deploying the IT asset to an employee, you can also share this information so they can plan ahead for the time that their device will be unavailable due to maintenance. Following the maintenance and servicing schedule will go a long way toward eliminating the risk of hardware breakdown when the employee least expects or needs it. This approach can have a substantial impact on productivity across your organization and reduces overall stress on your team. Accurate record keeping also matters when unexpected failures do happen. From the report of a problem and identifying exactly what hardware and which software is involved, to sending the item off for repair and providing a temporary replacement, to swapping assets when the original is back in service, a comprehensive repository of procurement details always helps expedite and improve IT service management. Here are some benefits of these processes for your employees and your organization. Minimize unplanned downtime. Increase IT asset lifespan. Ensure the best experience possible during maintenance, whether it's planned or not. Reduce overhead costs and maximize ROI for your IT assets.
Important point there. The key thing that you want to go through as you go through this process is to keep in mind how the assets are being used and providing the right access to equipment by role. So as they're going through this maintenance process, you got to look at much of your client-facing employees work in a remote environment. It is key that they have sound process for that you have a sound process for capturing on IT needs and tracking requests, fulfillments, and custody changes. Make it as simple as possible for them to share information regarding their needs with a user-friendly interfaces on devices that are convenient to them. Remember, if as long as their equipment is in maintenance, then they can't use it in your client-facing activities, which has a direct impact on your customer satisfaction and your revenue generation. That's it,
Absolutely.
Bruce.
Thanks, Paul. All right, so we've discussed setting up IT management processes and standardizing protocols to keep employees satisfied and productive. The next scenario is about continuous business improvement over time through the use of analytics and reporting. Here are a few related statistics. According to a recent Gartner CIO procurement study, 56% of IT purchases in the study resulted in buyer's remorse due to lack of attention to the decision-making process among various stakeholders. The analyst remarked, many organizations assume that we all understand how to make a good collaborative decision. This is a bad assumption. A Jamf survey showed that 68% of enterprise workers said that having a choice in the work devices they use make them more productive. And a Harvard Business Review study indicates that approximately 60% of business owners say that a lack of transparency between their finance and procurement functions represent a risk to their business. Together, these stats point to a need for insight into the procurement requirements in order to positively affect business objectives. Here are some key capabilities that are missing without aggregated insight into your IT asset usage and performance patterns. Lack of aggregated insight into software and hardware means that you cannot understand how the assets are being used, which software applications are being used, at what point laptops of brand A or B typically reach their retirement age, and the usage of peripheral items, all of which can lead to over or underbuying IT inventory. The second issue is that without the benefit of IT analytics, IT asset analytics, it's difficult to determine the preferences of your employees. With this information at hand, your buying patterns can be matched better to the demand, helping to keep employees more engaged and productive. Lack of deep insight impedes clear internal communications, accurate budget forecasts, and educated procurement decisions. Without understanding current asset utilization, predicting which tech your employees will require and what quantities can be quite challenging. And lastly, without analytics and reporting that offer trends to examine, it's very difficult to uncover improvements to your IT management processes, including trends regarding asset utilization, assets that are overdue for maintenance, total value of your IT assets, and more. If you're experiencing problems in IT service and other employee experience impacting factors, the improvements that your organization needs live in this data. Here are a few ways to leverage the IT asset data you're collecting to improve employee experience. First, IT asset utilization reports are extremely helpful to get a clear understanding of what devices your employees prefer, making procurement decisions much simpler. With a detailed database, you can start with Mac versus PC, but you will also be able to drill down into what manufacturer your employees prefer. Whether it's Lenovo, HP, or Dell, you will understand better how the next procurement cycle looks. As we have discussed previously, that maintaining your inventory stock levels is important for your operational processes and employee experience. Generating periodic reports on your stock levels of IT peripherals ensures coverage. Setting these up per department can be a very useful strategy as well. Regular reports will show you when you are reaching a low stock threshold and keep you ahead so staff are not affected by unnecessary delays in replacing items. Another impactful report is the value of your IT assets. These insights will assist in strategic budgetary and procurement decisions. Such reports can also be set up to indicate the total worth of unassigned IT assets. Understanding the aggregate levels of wasted IT spend is very powerful for finding ways to solve your employee asset requirements with more efficient use, management, and procurement practices. For the fifth scenario, we'll discuss the people who actually interact with the data and tools that govern employee-facing IT processes. Depending on the level of sophistication, in some organizations, every employee may have access to the management spreadsheets or other systems that you're using, but for more advanced businesses, access is restricted by a role, for example, IT teams or team managers. How you set up access management for your IT assets impacts overall IT security, privacy, accountability, and also compliance. Here are a few numbers that speak to the importance of access management. According to a study by Identity Defined Security Alliance, IDSA, 94% of IT and security professionals have experienced a data breach at some point. A recent annual study indicated that 44% of global businesses report that cyber incidents such as cybercrime, data breaches, and fines and penalties are the leading risks to the business. According to the earlier referenced IDSA study, 49% of IT and security professionals expressed that they were very confident in their ability to secure and manage employees among the list of potential threats and vulnerabilities. Now let's take a look at a few common user and compliance problems that business face with unstructured IT management processes. First, there are security concerns. An easily accessible asset database is an open invitation for malicious activity and unintended vulnerability. Since your central repository keeps an unconsolidated view of your IT assets, peripherals, and endpoints, it is important to both limit and secure access. Second, with many employees checking in and checking out IT equipment, it becomes very possible that the employee responsible for updating the data can make mistakes. So moreover, if access to this data is open, there will be much potential for incorrect data and other potentially worse outcomes. Without substantial structure to your IT asset management procedures, it is more difficult to become ISO certified as well as GDPR compliant. Both of these can have a significant impact on your business. Paul, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're seeing is that a lot of our clients, especially the larger ones, are having an increased focus on security standards. So standards such as ISO, SOC 2, GDPR are things that companies are looking at much closer. To give you an example, in our company, we have a team led by an attorney that is focused on implementing these security measures to satisfy the needs that our customers are communicating to us, as well as secure the information we use internally. Initially, I really glanced at the idea of this rigor, that it was going to cause a lot of steps that I haven't had to do in the past. However, what it has shown is that it has value and it gives me proper behaviors to secure my critical company information, the stuff that I deal with as a manager in our company. So as you're looking at your security down the line, remember that security involves the employee as well. So make sure that those security standards are something that are known throughout the organization, because as you know, breaches have become much more popular and we're seeing them much more often. And so having some security protocols in place that secure your data is becoming more and more important as we go forward. Bruce?
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Here are some measures that your IT team can take to address these security issues. Establish and maintain strict user access permissions and protocols for your IT management data. Only IT leaders who manage and implement these processes, such as checking in and out equipment and assigning software licenses, should have access to the repository. In addition to security, this also helps prevent unintended changes and other errors. Optionally, other IT staff can also have limited access to your asset database so they can approve the requests to check out items, upgrade them, and so on. They should be able to provide or revoke access to software as well as hardware assets. Third, the employees in your organization can have limited access to this system, which helps them view the status of assets, put in check-in or maintenance requests, streamlining operations and maintaining transparency. The last scenario we're going to talk about today is one that does not get a lot of attention: on employee offboarding. Here are some numbers that point to why smooth employee offboarding should be just as big a priority for your organization as onboarding. Lack of offboarding processes result in $300 million in lost revenue from employee theft and $8.3 million in cybersecurity breaches each year. According to an Aberdeen research study, only 29% of organizations have a formal process for managing employee offboarding seamlessly. And an intermediate study found that 89% of employees were able to access sensitive corporate applications well after their departure. It is important to realize that the experiences your employees have before, during, and after their time in your organization will always be remembered, and a good offboarding process ensures that your employees feel valued. Let's talk about a few more reasons as to why a smooth transition of your employees exiting is important. First, the exiting employees leave with a good impression of your organization and will continue to act as your advocate for for outstanding employee experience. They would be more likely to refer other people to your organization. Smooth IT offboarding mitigates security risks. If access to the network infrastructure and software applications is not revoked in time, the employees can still use the application or unprotected hardware, opening risks of malware, data breach, and other threats. Efficient offboarding makes devices and licenses available for the other employees, reducing redundant purchases. Timely offboarding also gives you a chance to get hardware in solid working condition for the next employee's use. It's best to have a checklist for IT teams to follow to ensure seamless offboarding. This way, you can tightly manage activities when an employee is close to leaving, know when to revoke access from your servers, and when to check back in the hardware devices, making the process simple and smooth for both employees and your organization. Properly offboarding employees can help help you save money, stay audit ready, and enhance your security. Here's a simple IT offboarding checklist. It's best to keep an updated record of your employee exit dates, voluntary resignations, retirements, and dismissals, since they can be unpredictable. So be sure that your IT team is connected with your HR department to keep track of exiting employees. Your IT teams should have reminders set before the exit dates of your employees. In addition, generate a list of all hardware and software IT assets that have been assigned to the exiting employees beforehand. On their last working day, reclaim all the software assets that have been shared with them. This includes deprovisioning them from software applications, changing passwords of shared accounts, reassigning their administrator rights, and terminating their VPN access. Next, recover the hardware assets that were assigned to them. These may include laptops, headsets, peripherals, extra monitors, and mobile phones. And lastly, discontinue network access. Once these steps have been followed, you can repurpose your IT equipment while at the same time ensuring that your employee enjoys a smooth transition. Paul, any experiences with this?
Yes, actually, this is a scenario that we address pretty regularly in our work with K through 12, as being school systems. Since COVID-19, schools have been providing students with laptops and Chromebooks for virtual learning, and now also for blended learning, where they're learning some in the classroom and they're also having some work that they're doing at home on those different devices. With students transferring in and out of school districts during the year, keeping track of who has what, and having a process for getting the equipment back and assigning new equipment to the people that are transferring into those districts is key to them, because they have a very budget sensitive environment, and it's very important for them to minimize the cost of replacing equipment. I have an example of one organization where they gave out 100,000 laptops. 90,000 of them came back with the wrong connector or power supply. And so they had to go out and buy 90,000 power supplies. In a school system, that's not something, that money is not just sitting around waiting to be used. And they find, and they have similar challenges when they're trying to get back equipment from graduating seniors. So if you can imagine the seniors leaving the school, top of mind for them is not getting the laptop back to the school. They're trying to figure out how they can keep it. So we see this a lot in the offboarding process, and it impacts the onboarding process, as Bruce mentioned before, because if you don't get the equipment back, the next person that's going to sit in that seat is going to have to deal with the fact that they don't have the proper equipment. Bruce?
Great. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Paul. So now that we've covered the 6 scenarios, we'll just take a few minutes to discuss the value of IT asset management tools, in particular, our solution, Asset Sonar. Paul, back to you. I believe you're muted, Paul.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
It's sort of like reading the Bible to God when I'm going through Asset Sonar, when I have Hasib on the line, who's the product manager for that product. But I'm going to give you my best guess, and Hasib, don't give me a hard time. So we have a product called Asset Sonar, and it tracks and manages IT assets across locations and departments to help with your implementation, with your administration and service delivery. One of the some of the capabilities of that product are it automates asset tracking for assets of all types. So it can track your software, it can track your monitors, your keyboards, your mice, your iPads, all your mobile devices. It streamlines the hardware and software management because you can manage that stuff from a central location and impact the organization as a whole. We manage software compliance and updates to make sure that you're not breaking your license with your software vendors, and also that everyone has the latest and greatest copy of the software that you have purchased. Because we let you know about when proactive maintenance is required, it allows you to maintain your equipment so that downtime is minimized and frustration to your employees is as least possible. And we gain visibility by integrating with your existing endpoints and identity management systems, such as your Active Directory, so that you can easily work with different pieces of equipment and different people in different situations so that you can get them answers as quickly as possible. Also, that product integrates with many of the popular help desk ticketing systems, do native integrations, and we also have an API for those integrations that are not native. And it has a streamlined IT, so it's really a streamlined ITSM solution for your employee requests. It integrates with that ticketing system, and so you don't have to go through. We've all gone through the, I'm having a problem with my phone. Can you tell me what version of the phone you have? Can you tell me the number of your equipment, which is all very frustrating as a user. Using Asset Sonar with your ticketing system, your service agents can easily see what's going on with an individual piece of equipment and help that user fix their problem without you having to ask the user to go through a million steps to identify what they have. So didn't want to have a big commercial here, but we do have a system that can help you with some of this stuff. And so that's our product, is Asset Sonar. Bruce?
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Good stuff.
Hasib, how did I do?
Wait,
You did great, man.
It was time to introduce Hasib. So Hasib, who just rang in there, I'd like to introduce Hasib Saad, product manager with Easy Web Enterprises. He will join us for the Q&A. If you have any questions, please type them into the QA. Just click the QA button at the bottom of your interface and type in your questions there. We have a few offline questions here, which I'll ask. One is, A question for, and I think this is for you, Hasib. In your product, is there support for bringing in devices from Jamf or Intune?
Yeah, we do support bringing in your device from Jamf and Intune, and we also support Microsoft's SCCM solution, and we're always integrating with more MDMs as they come along. So, for example, we have an integration with Cisco Meraki and Kanji in the pipeline that should also be released in the next few months.
Awesome. Thanks. Next question is, what sort of automations does Asset Sonar provide for onboarding of new employees? I think Hasib, would you like to take this one?
Yeah. So we have tons of automations when it comes to dealing with these ID processes. So, for example, in the onboarding workflow, if you, let's say, if you're using a help desk like Zendesk or Jira, our native integration allows you to allocate devices to new employees right within the help desk. So you don't have to move between different solutions. You can just do that from within the help desk. Another sort of automation that we have is that we allow you to create bundles that you can use over and over again for new employees as they come in. And in these bundles, in these bundles, you can group sort of like classify your devices that you need to give out to employees based upon their departments or locations. And another sort of integration, sort of automation that we have is that we're able to create tickets on these helpless integrations based upon different touch points of the onboarding workflow.
Excellent. Thanks so much. One more, and Paul, I think this is for you. Do K through 12 organizations you've worked with typically track software?
Actually, no. Kind of. In K through 12 environment, they don't track the software that's on the student machines because usually that's just a learning platform that the students are using. However, they do track in the background all of the software that's being used by the employees. So there's a split there, and for employees and teachers, they do track the software that's on those computers. And when it comes to the students, not so much. So in the background, they're usually using something like JamF to make sure that they have all the information that they need on those teacher machines. But like I said, not so much on the student side.
Got it. Thanks very much. Well, unless there are any more questions, I don't see any more. I think that's going to be a wrap. Listen, please reach out to us at support@assetsonar.com. If any other questions do come up, we'll be glad to help. And otherwise, I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much for attending our webinar. We hope it's helpful for you and your team. You will receive a link to the event recording via email within a few days. Have a great day. Thank you.